This morning, we're going to start our day with a dear friend of mine, Jon Vroman. I mean, wow, this man. Jon Vroman started the Front Row Foundation, and he donates his time to be the executive director of that foundation. A foundation that provides front row experiences for children and adults who are battling life-threatening illnesses. It's remarkable. It's amazing. John's going to talk to you more about that. He also started Front Row Moms and Front Row Dads in an attempt to help moms and dads be better parents and be moment makers for their children and their families. This is a remarkable man. Well, please help me welcome to the stage my dear friend, author, motivator speaker, overall just a good human, Jon Vroman.
I want to live in the front row. I want to hold my hand up high. I want to let my light show. This is how I live my life. I want to live in the front row. I want to hold my hand.
Guys, that was great. Erica was great. Can we give her one more round of applause so she can hear that backstage? That was so good. Well, good morning. 1,630 of you showed up today. That's incredible. You know, you had a choice, and you chose to be here, and I want to honor that. I feel so privileged to be in front of you. I love being in Rapid City. I'm from Texas. I'm from Austin. We left 80-degree weather, and while you think that might be a bad thing, I am here with my son, Tiger, who's right here in the 5th row. And we flew out. Yeah, you can give Tiger a round of applause. That's awesome. I don't think that's ever happened for him. 1,630 people. We left home and we landed, and he had the window shade down, and when we landed, I said, Tiger, look out the window, and he opened it up, and he's like, whoa, snow. Now, I'm guessing not all of you feel that way about snow, do you? But sometimes it's great when somebody else is enthusiastic about something. It reminds you, like, oh yeah, it is actually very pretty and not just totally annoying. My son Tiger brings a lot of joy into my life. And, I feel like I want to be a great dad. How many of you are parents, by the way? How many of you are parents? How many of you are dads out there? Just curious dads. So I want to be a great dad, and there have been moments where I haven't always felt like a great dad. You know, if I go back a few years, we were living in New Jersey before we moved to Texas, and our community had put together this little gathering, and there were, stands where you could buy cotton candy and rides that you could ride, and there was this rock wall. And Tiger at the time was about 5 years old, maybe just about to turn 5. And he was asking me to climb this rock wall. And I thought, this is for big kids. This is definitely for adults. And I tried to talk him out of it. I was like, oh, buddy, let's go ride this other, roller coaster ride that you love. And, I tried to sell him off of the wall. But he was so committed. He was definitely going to climb this wall. And I finally gave in. My son is very persistent. You might have persistent children. You might be persistent yourself. And I admire that quality. And I said, yeah, you know what? Let's give it a shot. Let's give it a try. Now, deep down inside, I thought, there's no way this is going to work. I don't even think the harness will fit on my son. But he got onto the wall, left hand, right hand, he put him on the wall, and he just flew up the wall. To my surprise, he went 35 feet up on the wall. I stood there in amazement, my jaw on the ground, and then I saw he got to the part of the wall where he stopped. The wall actually inverted out. And if you've ever done climbing, that's a difficult part to get through. And it was the last 5 to 7 feet of the wall. And if you got to the top, you'd hit this button and the lights would go off. My son stopped right there and he looked down at me and he looked down and he said, Papa. He says, I can't. I was like, what do I say? What does a dad do in that moment? I said, I said, it's okay, buddy. I said, you tried. I thought, I'm a good dad. If we can see the slide here. My son, all the way up on the wall, stuck there, looking down, saying, I can't. I said, you tried. I thought trying is good. And I thought I was so proud of him, and I also thought I was right. He couldn't do it. This guy in the blue shirt at the bottom, who was working at the rock wall that day, he looked back up at my son and he said, "Hey, little man, try again." Oh yeah. Yeah, that's good. Try again, I'll remember that. Tiger, with the newfound confidence given to him by the man working the rock wall, puts his hands back on the wall, and with all of his might, he gets to the very top, smashes the button, the lights go off, everybody's cheering, I'm out of my mind, my wife is right there in front of me, she's going crazy, he comes down the wall, he walks over to me, he's got this big smile on his face, this incredible moment that just happened in his life. I give him a high five, people are giving him high fives, his mom's hugging him. Great moment. This man standing next to me as Tiger's getting his harness taken off in celebration, feeling great about himself. He's like, he said, "That's your boy." He goes, "How old is he?" I think he was 4 at the time. I said, "He's 4. He goes, "That's amazing. Are you serious?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "It's incredible, right?" He said, "Wow, you must be so proud. I'm so proud." He says, "By the way, what do you do?" I said, "Oh, I'm a motivational speaker." And I thought, why, Tiger's dad, in that moment did I miss such an opportunity to be a moment maker for my son? And yet this man, this stranger who we had just met moments ago, spoke some words into my son's heart that could have potentially changed his life. And here's why I say that it could have potentially changed his life. My son, not too long after this was taken, we moved to Texas, he joined a rock climbing team. He fell in love with rock climbing, and then he joined the competitive rock climbing team and became quite the climber. And I couldn't help but think back to the man in the blue shirt at the rock wall that day who spoke these powerful words into my son's heart. "Try again. I believe in you," is what he said. "I think you can do this. Try it." Who knows what difference we all can make when we speak powerful words into people's lives, total strangers, people we might not ever know that we had such an impact on. And you think back on your own lives, think back over the last 10 years as we celebrate this anniversary of Day of Excellence. Think about people in your life that have spoken powerful words to you. People that showed up for you in a time of need, perhaps. Or perhaps when you just were succeeding, but you needed a little extra push to reach that level of success, that excellence that you chase. Take a moment and just honor that person. I see some of you smiling as you recall some of those stories of amazing people that have been gifted to your life. We have so many that we've even forgotten. But it's fun to take a walk down memory lane and recognize them. When I think about my son Tiger, I think about all the memories he's helped create for me. I think about when he was even younger. I have one more here. This is Tiger at about 2-ish, maybe about to turn 3. We're having kale for dinner. And Tiger, not totally intending to do so, but he created such a moment for us. One of our favorite moments with my son ever. Brought so much joy. Instead of eating the kale, he decided to do this. Where'd it go? Where did it go? Where did it go? Where'd it go? Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Right? I mean, we were just cracking up. And not only were we cracking up, but he has, I've shared that video with thousands and thousands of people, and he's brought so much joy into so many people's lives. And so much of our lives are about finding the magic moments. It's about recognizing that they can just exist, they can just be. Sometimes we create environments to nurture them to life. Sometimes we design them. But one thing is for sure, if we're aware of the power of these defining moments, these enlightening moments, moments of pride, moments of insight, moments of transformation, moments of courage, moments in our lives that we look back on and know that there was a change made, sometimes seemingly small, other times extraordinary, but the power of moments are undeniable. So how can we learn about them? How can we learn about the characteristics of these moments, right? And why are they so important to you, to your spouses, to your children, to your friends and your community members, the people that you get a chance to work with? Why are they important potentially to the world? And how much of them are actually being created just, magically, if you will, and how much are we designing them? What if they're actually happening all around us and we're not aware or awake enough to notice them? Certainly, I've been in moments in my life when I've been so busy, so distracted, day to day, morning till night, felt like I was on autopilot, missing the magic moments that I know were there, but I was just coasting through my days or moving quickly through my days. There's a presence, right? This could be one of those moments for you now. It certainly is for me. I hope it is for my son, Tiger. It's always a choice. Do we want to be moment makers? Erica, what an amazing soul. Such a beautiful introduction to the day. That was so great. I was backstage saying, she's really good. She should be on stage more often. She was talking about Front Row Foundation as she brought me out, a charity that I helped found back in 2006. And she told you what we do. Let me tell you about somebody that we helped one time. So this is 2007. We had just started the charity. We're a couple years in, and a friend of mine, John, came up to me one day and said, hey, buddy, a good friend of mine, her daughter isn't doing well. She's 4 years old. Her name is Sophie. She has a brain tumor. And I know that you started this awesome charity, and I'm hoping that you could do something for this little girl. She's in and out of surgeries constantly. She's undergoing very intense chemo and radiation, and her days are very tough. But I also happen to know she's a big Kelly Clarkson fan. Her mom has told us how they do Kelly Clarkson dance parties every night before they go to bed, and how the sound of Kelly's voice brings a lot of healing and joy in such a difficult time. Do you think we could send Sophie to go see Kelly Clarkson? Our team immediately was game for making this happen, so we raised the money, we got the tickets, and we set up an incredible day for Sophie. We picked her up with her mom and her dad, her brother, her sister, her grandparents. We picked them up in a limousine. Sophie was wearing a purple dress. We poured her sparkling cider when she got inside. We nurtured everybody all day long. We took them out to dinner. The Rainforest Cafe, if you've ever been, is like a kid's dream place, right? The whole place comes to life with these animals, and there's a thunderstorm in the middle of the restaurant. She was having a great day. We took her eventually to go see Kelly Clarkson, and we had actually talked to Kelly Clarkson and told her that we were bringing Sophie. So when she walked in, it was a smaller venue in New Jersey, in Atlantic City, and little Sophie walks in, and Kelly gives her a little point out from stage. That was a magic moment. She sang and she enjoyed the show, but what she didn't know was happening later was that we got her backstage. She had fallen asleep because it was late at night, and she was in her mother's arms, deep asleep, when bursting into the room comes Kelly Clarkson. Hey, y'all! Little Sophie hears that voice and turns around and locks eyes with Kelly. That picture still hangs on my wall to this day, just a few feet from where I stand, to fulfill this mission of helping people have these incredible, what we call front row moments in life. Sophie sat in her mother's arms, and then immediately Kelly picks her up, and they spend about 10 to 15 minutes together just talking. Sophie was in heaven. This picture brings a lot of purpose to my day. It was one moment in time, and interestingly, I wasn't even there. Two of my best friends were hosting this event, John and Mara Berghoff, and they were the ones that created this experience. I remember seeing this photograph, and I remember being moved to tears. And I remember actually being shocked by that myself, saying, why do I care so much about a total stranger, if you will? This family that I had only known for a matter of weeks before this event, why did that matter so much? And part of it was the recognition that facing the end of our life can bring a lot of meaning to the moments that we have. I remember not long after this picture was taken that I pulled out my journal and I wrote a little dot on the left-hand side. It said birth, and on the right-hand side it said death. And I remember looking, and I said, maybe, I get 100 years, let's just say. And I put a dot as to where I was, my age, and I looked at my life on that timeline. And I saw the importance of our moments, of my moments. Every Saturday, every day that passes by in my life, that's an investment into the story for a person that we get a chance to meet. It's an investment. Her mom, Lauren, Sophie's mom, told me this is one of the greatest days of Sophie's life. And what I hope we all get a chance to do is create these moments for people. Front Row Foundation has learned over 13 years of doing this that there is a lot you can learn about living life from people who are fighting for it. Let me say that again. There is a lot you can learn about living life from people who are fighting for it. I'm curious, how many of you have known somebody close to you that has fought for their life? They battled cancer, they fought for their life in some sort of way. Put your hands up. So many of us recognize the importance of life, especially when people are facing death. When we sat down to write the Front Row Factor book about 2 years ago, we were asking what can we learn about people who are fighting for their life, and there was a couple of things. One of the things that we learned about living life was the power of hope. What we recognized was that hope is different than wishful thinking. Hope was something that we look into the future and we get so inspired by it that it causes us to behave differently today. See, hope is the power of possibility brought into the present moment. Wishful thinking says, I wish things were different, but hope says, I make the difference. We saw this with one of our recipients, Thomas, who we told he was going to go see the Rugby World Cup in New Zealand. Now, Thomas was in a wheelchair at the time and fighting for his life, but we were told that every day in physical therapy, Thomas would work so hard so that he could stand at that game for the national anthem. What are you hopeful for? What dreams make you come alive? What about for the people that you know and love and care about? What are they hopeful for? If I asked you to write out your 8 most important relationships in life, could you tell me what each of those 8 people are most inspired by? What gets them out of bed each day? And how often do you ask them about those dreams and goals? And how are you their greatest fan in the front row of their life, cheering them on to lift them up? So many times we talk about in life, you got to get in the game. I love that, by the way. I love to play the game. There's nothing wrong with that metaphor, that idea of getting into the arena. But I think sometimes we underestimate the people that are in the front row, cheering that person on, saying, you go, right? I'm going to shine the light on you this time. Sometimes we underestimate the support role, the people that give birth, right? We talk about people and we hold them in high esteem like Gandhi or Martin Luther King, and they're wonderful people and they deserve the credit that they're getting. But what about their parents? What about the moms and the dads that nurtured them in life? What about their mentors and their guides, the people that played roles? We all have a chance to create hope. We all have a chance to keep hope alive. And we saw that power in the charity. Aside from hope, we saw the power of celebration on the other side, looking back, saying, what can we celebrate? I'll never forget one of our recipients, Mike, 16 years old. He went to go see this incredible pirate show, this live performance, and he was a huge fan. Mike was fighting for his life, and he was really in tough shape right after this event. He spent a lot of days in the hospital, and I'll never forget our team walking in and seeing Mike. We were there to visit him and just bring love and light into the room, and Mike was sitting there on his hospital bed, flipping through his photo album of his front row day, looking at his photographs, smiling. The power of celebration says we can look back in our lives and say, what were the bright moments? What can we be grateful for? What happened that was right? What was great about today? And we can bring that power into the moment and change the way we experience now. Hope, celebration, and also presence. Being the type of person that could be aware of what's happening right now and appreciate it before it's too late. You know, the type of person that can be here and not be distracted, not be thinking about our to-do list, not be thinking about all the things that we have to do next or what the heck just happened, but to be fully present and experiencing our lives. To be fully present and experiencing other people's lives. To be witness to people. You ever talk with somebody, like at an event like this, but, you're in the hallway and you're having a conversation and that person's just such a great listener? They're just eye to eye with you, and even if there's like a distraction somewhere, they're just locked in, and they're just listening, and they're asking great questions, and they're acknowledging you, and they're repeating back what you said, and they're asking other great questions. You know that person? You ever met that person? Aren't they so wonderful? I love talking to people like that because they're so present to the moment. And then there's the other type of person at events like this, where you're talking to them, and they're looking over your shoulder if somebody other cooler is walking into the room. Is there another conversation they need to be in? Have they gotten all they can get from you? very self-serving conversation? Or are they there to give something? We learn about all these things from how people approach their lives. So much you can learn about living life from people who are fighting for it. We learned also that these are forces at work, this hope, this celebration, this presence. We also learned about, the areas of focus that the happiest people, the most productive people, not only in our charity, but we noticed this was true in business too. Those that focused on the power of relationships, building and maintaining powerful relationships. Those who had an incredible mindset. Those who said, let's not look at what's wrong, let's look at what's right. Let's amplify the good so we can silence what's not. And our environment, how can we shape and create a powerful environment? You choosing to be here today is choosing an environment. All the work that this team did to put this together, all the production value here creates a moment for all of us because of the environment. I want to share with you a video very quickly of a woman who we just did an event for, and it puts all this together. And I want you to notice the emotion of the video. I want you to notice what we've created for her. I also would invite you to take a note of one particular part of this video, which is that she is reading letters written to her by total strangers. One of the things that we've done in our community, the Front Row Foundation community, is we invite everybody that's a part of it. And there's actually going to be a moment for you to participate in this as well today. Anybody and everybody can write a letter, a love letter, a fan mail, we call it, fan mail to the recipient of our Front Row experience. Have you ever gotten a bag of fan mail in your life? I never have. I'd be willing to bet most of us haven't. It's such an extraordinary moment. It's such a defining moment for us. This woman, Rebecca, had letters written to her by an event just like this, a bunch of people who didn't know who she was, and they just decided to put some powerful words on paper. Hey, Rebecca, we don't know each other, but I've heard your story, and I just wanted to send you love from our family. Simple. Profound. Some of the letters are longer. Some of them are poems. Some of them were letters, or they were artwork done by little kids. Families are getting together on weekends, and they're going to our website, and they're finding the upcoming recipients, and they're drawing pictures. I just want you to see that. So let's go to this video now, and this is Rebecca, and you'll learn her story.
My life completely, just switched from what I wanted to do to what I had to do. My official diagnosis is Alport Syndrome. It affects your kidneys, it shuts them down completely. When I was diagnosed with Alport Syndrome, it completely changed my life. Everything that I was doing, I either had to stop or I had to do less of. It was a total 180 for my life. I don't have much of a social life anymore, because at this age, I'm 23. All of my friends are out at bars, partying, and, staying out too late, and I have to be home at a certain time. I have to hook up to my machine. I'm hooked up for 10 and a half hours now. I used to be 9 hours, but now it's 10 and a half. I literally cannot do anything, and I cannot stay out late. My life completely just switched from what I wanted to do to what I had to do.
Front Row Foundation bringing us here, making us feel like we can be a part of a different community, the Front Row Foundation community. It means a lot to us. So this is a blessing.
Oh my goodness! I don't have people like that right now. I only really have my mom and my sister. So it's good. It's just wild.
It means a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Thank you.
It feels good. I'm just a crier. I've literally watched Kelly Clarkson since her audition on American Idol. I'm never the one that's receiving. So it's very surreal. Been picturing just being in the front and seeing her and having her look at me. It literally is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I'll probably never experience something like that again. Literally sitting at a bar, drinking a drink, and watching, famous people sing and walk in front of you. That's something I will never experience again, and that's incredible. I have that forever, so thank you.
So guys, two things. One is on the break, we actually have on the tables out in the hallway these bags that have a story of one of our recipients on it. So you can learn their name and a little bit about their story. And then there's some note cards there with some pens. And if you feel inspired to do so today, you could walk out into the hallway on a break. You could take 1 minute and write a couple of powerful words on a note card to that recipient, put it in the bag, and we will mail them to that recipient on your behalf. And I just want you to imagine the difference that Day of Excellence gets to make in the life of another person when you take a few moments to do that. And I want you to imagine that if you were in that situation, what it would feel like to receive hundreds of letters from people around the country that you don't know and you will probably never know, but that are sending you their love, they're praying for you, or they're wishing you well. And don't worry about writing the right words. If you're already saying, I don't know what to write, and you're judging your words, just know that that recipient is not judging your words. Whatever you put on paper is you could put a big heart and just put sending love. And that's all you'd have to do, and that would mean the world to them. So here's what I want you to do. I think it's very important to make decisions to change your life and the lives of others. So I'm gonna invite you to do something very quickly. Everybody, I'll invite you just for a quick second. This will take 10 seconds. Close your eyes right now. Everybody in the room, just close your eyes. And without anybody knowing what anybody else is doing, if you'd be willing to write a letter to one of our recipients on the break today, quietly to yourself, nobody else is watching, just put your hand up right now. Just put your hand up. Awesome. Go ahead and put that down. Open up your eyes. Thank you so much for making a decision to support Front Row. We really appreciate it. I also want to give you an invitation, by the way, very quickly, and if we can show the screen here, this is a way to stay connected. One of the ways I wanted you to feel connected to Front Row Foundation is if you liked that story, or you'd like to learn more about the cause, you just want to get involved somehow, you'd like to write additional letters or share it with your family, all you'd have to do is text that number at the top of the screen, 415-528-7403. If you want to, you can take a picture of it. If you want to, you can do it now. I'll also show you this later in the keynote, which you can then do it then. But all you'd have to do is just text Rapid City to that number, and then you'll get this message back that says, please text back your email address and we'll send you the goodies. Thanks, John. You put in your email. And by the way, that is my personal email, in case anybody wants to stay in touch. You text your email, and then you've been subscribed. And the list that you're subscribing to, just so you know, because I'm not interested in spamming anybody or sending you junk anything. This is not to sell you anything. This is nothing like that. This is only to get connected to the charity. If you'd like to learn more, hear about recipient stories, somehow get involved, maybe you've got connections to tickets, maybe you would like to send the fan mail with you and your family or your office. We have offices all over the country that do this. They pick one day out of a campaign and they get together and they write letters to people, and it's a great team building activity. So if you think that could be cool, I just wanted to give you the way that you could do that. All right, I'll share that again a little bit later, but for now, I want to talk about creating a moment in this room, right now with you, for somebody that's here. And the person I'm interested in creating this moment for is Erica Heiser. Is she here? I know she's either, there she is. Erica, would you come up and join me for a quick moment on stage? Guys, and hold your applause for just a second, because I know it's tempting to applaud this incredible woman. I wanted to invite Erica up on stage for a couple of reasons. Number one is that I wish I could invite the entire Day of Excellence team, because there's an amazing board of directors, and there's volunteers, and there's so many people that actually, let's walk over here. Come over here, Erica. There's so many people that are responsible for making this day possible. But one of the things I wanted to say to you in front of this crowd is thank you so much for allowing this moment to occur, and I just really want to honor you for that. What I want to ask all of you is that if we can create a moment for Erica today. Now, I actually don't know whether or not you've ever received the gift that they're about to give you, but if you have, then we're going to shoot for a record. If you haven't, this will be a first for you, and I'll ask you at the end. What you're going to do in just a moment is I want to introduce Erica to you, or I want to thank Erica publicly, and I'd like for you all to join me in giving her a standing ovation. Not yet, just a moment. And here's why. Now, we might say, and in my own internal dialogue is, hey, we don't want to just randomly give out standing ovations. We want people to earn them. Well, first of all, I think you've earned it. Let's just, for the record, I think you've earned it. But I also want to challenge you to see it this way. She's earned the standing ovation because she is a human being. And it's okay to recognize a human being for being human, right? That's it. We don't have to do anything. I want to remind people that while accomplishment is great and achievement is great, and I'm a hard-charging guy who goes after big goals and dreams, and I believe in taking action, I also believe that in order to be respected and loved, you don't have to accomplish all those things. Because a baby that's born is deserving of our love and respect and doesn't have to do anything in order to earn that. And in our lives, you all are deserving of love and respect. Your community is deserving of love and respect. And we can acknowledge, witness, and thank somebody just for being a human being. And that's it. So in a moment, I'm just going to introduce Erica. You guys are going to give her a roaring standing ovation. And the invite is one that she will never forget. Let's make this a front row moment for Erica today. Are you with me? Say, oh yeah? All right, so with all your energy and as loud and as proud as you can be in honor of Rapid City, in honor of Day of Excellence, in honor of Erica, ladies and gentlemen, it's Erica Heiser! It's Erica! Wow. That was amazing. You're amazing. That was great. Guys, thank you so much for playing. Erica, thank you so much for what you do. One more time, Erica Heiser, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you. That's true. By the way, she just said everyone should have that. And I would agree. And we get to create those moments for people. You know what else I notice about these moments of the standing ovation? Is that in our lives, we get a chance to choose who we take a stand for. You know? And we get to create these moments. And sometimes they're micro moments. Sometimes it's not 1,630 people, but somebody knows when you're taking a stand for them. I was in Las Vegas a number of years ago seeing a performance, a group, you may or may not have heard of them. They're called the Jabbawockeez. Anybody? Jabbawockeez? Okay. Amazing dance group, right? And I'm about 8 or 10 rows back in the audience, and they did their whole thing, and at the end, they're taking their bow, you know, and I'm sitting down, okay? I'm sitting down, and everybody's clapping. And then it hits me. I'm looking around going, no standing ovation? Like, that was amazing. But as soon as I start asking why nobody else is standing, what do I have to ask myself? Why am I not standing? So then inside I go, oh, I can't stand now because it's like we've already been clapping for a while, and if I stand, it's like, who's Mr. Delayed Standing Ovation guy? And then I'm like, I'm not going to be that guy. And then I hear myself talking, and I'm like, John, are you kidding me? Like, why do you care so much about what, you know, a bunch of people think about you? Like, if they deserve a standing ovation, just give them the standing ovation. Like, come on. I'm having this whole dialogue in my head. And finally, when this is about done, I decide to stand up, right? Now, here's what's interesting. Inside, I'm terrified. This doesn't sound like a big deal, but inside, I'm standing there going, I'm just terrified. My hands are sweating, my heart's pounding. Nobody is standing. It's just me. So then, you've seen this too. Some people stand and they go, woohoo! Oh, shoot, and they sit right back down. You've seen it, right? You've seen it. You see no confidence. And I said, not me, not today, not this time. And I decided to stand there, right? And then finally, I guess like somebody else, either they were like, yeah, this is actually really good, or they were like, I can't let this fool do this by himself. Either way, they stood up and started clapping. Next thing you know, everybody stands up, and there's two emotions I felt in that moment when everybody stood up. One was, look at what I did. And my ego was just like out of control. And, but it felt like I did that, right? Like I created that, like I was the spark, and then this all, and then I realized, I said, this isn't about you, Jon. This is not what you did. That you simply stood for what you believed in. And everybody else in that room made their own choice for themselves in that moment as well. They did what they needed to do. And what we did is we honored the people on stage. And it just reminded me that we have this power in our lives to just stand for what we believe in, stand for the people that we believe in. You know, think about right now in your own life, like who do you want to take a stand for? Who do you want to take a stand for? What person or group of people do you need to take a stand for? It's a question we all need to sit with and process in our lives. And when we do that, what we do is we end up living a front row life. And that's what this message was titled, as you might have seen or in your book. It's about how to live a front row life. Some people go, well, Jon, what does that mean, how to live a front row life? And I said, remember when we started this whole charity, I was in an event like this. I was in the very back row. And I'm not picking on anybody in the back, by the way, because sometimes you get the seat that you get, right? But I was in the back row, and I looked to the front, and it was Jason Mraz. It was a Jason Mraz concert, and I'm a big fan. And Jason's playing, and there's this group of people in the front row that are just like standing up, and they're singing, and they're dancing, and they're having a great time. And I remember being in the back row, and I remember thinking, I wish I could do that. I wish I had the courage to be that person. I wish I was, organized enough to get front row seats. I wish that I worked hard enough to make the money so I could buy the front row seats. I wish that I was, perhaps with people in life that were front row type people who wanted to be engaged in the experience. I had these moments where I realized I'd been living my life as a spectator in the back, not as a participant up front. I was watching life safely from afar. I remember thinking to myself, no more. These people in the front looked like they wanted to be nowhere other than there. They were in the moment. I looked around in the back at my event, and I was like, there's a bunch of people who look like they would want to be anywhere other than here. Same experience in life, same exact concert, same exact venue. Two drastically different experiences of the same moment in life. We all get those choices. Living life in the front row is about standing up, stepping up, speaking up. It's about proximity. I mean, think about this for a moment. Like, what if I just came over here and I just decided to do the rest of my presentation from right here? Wow. What's your name? Steve. His name is Steve. Everybody say, hey, Steve. Hey, Steve. Now, Steve, I'm just willing to bet that if I gave the rest of my presentation just like this would be a different experience for you, yes or yes? Yes. And that's because living a front row life is about understanding the power of proximity. Power of proximity. And what that means is we choose what we get close to. When you buy a home on the ocean front, you pay more money because of the experience and where it's located. When we pay for front row seats at a concert, we usually pay more because our experience is different. But in our lives, it's the exact same thing in everything we do. So if you want to know whether or not you're living a front row life, you have to ask yourself, am I stepping up to, am I getting close to the people, places, thoughts, and things that make me and others come alive? Are we living a front row life? Front row living is like turning now into wow. It's turning any moment into something more special because you ask a different question. And one of those questions is, how can you consciously create, experience, and celebrate the meaningful moments of life? And think about that. A person, the difference of their day, if they walk through life and the question they're asking in any moment, here, on breaks, at work, at home, wherever they are, at church, in their communities, if they simply ask the question, what could I do right now to consciously create, experience, or maybe just celebrate the meaningful moment that's happening now, or that I could create right now? How can I consciously create, experience, or celebrate the meaningful moments of life? How different would that person's day be? I remember I wasn't always this way, by the way. I was super negative. I was super challenged as a young man. I was in high school, by the way. I was 4'10", and I weighed 85 pounds. Going into my junior year, I was smaller than my 9-year-old neighbor. I'm serious. By the way, I can laugh at it now too, by the way. Now at the time, it wasn't so funny, but now I look back and I go, oh, this was just a gift in my life. This was a gift in my life because I remember what it was like to want to be in the back row. I never wanted anybody to see me. I was terrified of people in school. I was bullied by people in school, right? I lived such a back row life that all that pain in my life eventually became purpose for me. Do you ever notice that? That sometimes you're given pain because it needs to become your purpose? Sometimes we're given the most challenging things in life because it helps us to have perspective and knowledge and experience that we can then help others. Living a front row life says, no matter what seat you get in life, you could have a front row experience. Because even if you are back row, you're front row to the person next to you. It's all a shift in how we see things. So how are we going to live our lives? What choices are we going to make? You know, there's actual science behind all this too. There's something called the Losado Line. Anybody familiar with that, the Losado Line? This was a study that was done, and it was actually replicated in businesses, in hospitals, in colleges, in homes. The ratio is this. It basically says that if you want to create a thriving marriage, if you want to create a thriving business, if you want to create a thriving church organization, if you want to create a thriving neighborhood, a community, a state, a city, whatever it is, the ratio of conversations and interactions between people needs to be at least 3 positive to 1 negative. They have measured this in so many different ways, replicated the study over and over again. Some of you may be familiar with the work of Jon Gottman, leading researcher in relationships. And over years, he took thousands of couples and he studied their behaviors, literally thousands of conversations for over a decade. They actually just compiled all this information into a new book called 8 Dates that he just released, which I'm into right now, a very good book. But one of the things he talks about is the ratio. He says we can predict divorce with a 94% accuracy by one factor: the number of positive engagements and conversations to negative ones. Positive to negative. I'm not saying we should never have a challenging conversation with somebody where we bring up a place where we're challenged, right? Where we can express where we're feeling bad. I'm not saying that's not positivity. I'm not promoting a life where you can't ever say what's wrong and you can't ever have a bad day. You certainly can and you should. That's real. But the question is the ratio, how many positives to negatives? How many minutes do you spend in either place? My friend Hal Elrod wrote a book called The Miracle Morning, and one of the things he talks about is he has a 5-minute rule. He says, I'll allow myself to get really upset, totally angry, freak out as much as I want, but only for 5 minutes. 5-minute rule. After 5 minutes, I got to let it go. I've got to move on. I've got to ask myself, why was I given this gift? What can I do about it? What can I control in this situation? And this is a guy, by the way, that was hit head-on by a drunk driver, heart stopped for 6 minutes, brought back to life. And then, not only that, but 2 years ago was diagnosed with a very rare and aggressive form of acute lymphoblastic leukemia and almost lost his life a second time. And he certainly faced some challenges. But these are all choices about how we get to live our life. And what is our ratio? And you can be really honest with yourself, because for me, that ratio was inverted. Even in my relationship with my wife, Tiger's mom, I haven't always been 3-to-1 positive. And when our relationship has been strained the most, it's because I've been negative. I've been seeing the worst of what is, not the best of what is. This ratio shows up even in the world's greatest facilitation work. Companies that bring in facilitators to create the future for these big companies. I know this firsthand because my best friend happens to run the largest facilitation training company in the world on a process called Appreciative Inquiry. Companies like Google, BMW, Facebook, big companies are using this process called Appreciative Inquiry. And you think about what that actually says in the title, Appreciative Inquiry. It's the search for what is good. Peter Drucker, one of the best management consultants in the world, always said that what his mission is with any company is to find the strengths and amplify them so that the weaknesses become irrelevant. In our lives, we do the same things. We seek out front row moments. We seek out opportunities to be in the front row. We seek out opportunities to elevate something versus try to fix always what's broken. We can't always fix what's broken, which is why we need to amplify the good. That's a front row life. Is this all making sense? If it does, say, oh yeah. If it doesn't, I'm sorry. I'm just wasting your time. You're like, when's the next speaker up? Let's talk a little bit more. Can we get the slide back? Awesome. So, the power of our words. So this note I woke up to one morning, came down in the kitchen, and this is a chalkboard door in our kitchen. My wife had written a note in chalk after I had gone to bed. To my surprise, I read this and read every word and immediately was moved to tears. And I know that you won't be able to read that whole thing, but I can tell you that that's not the kicker of the story. The kicker of the story is that my son Tiger caught me reading this in the morning and saw me so moved by it. And he saw this interaction. He knew that it was so powerful what Mom had done with her words. And he decided to write me this note. Universe. Tiger, you're a much better speller now. Much better. And one of the things that happened after that note was written was that his little buddy was over in the morning time. They were getting ready to go to the school bus together. And he said, I caught Tiger saying to his little buddy Thomas, he said, you know, Thomas, he goes, oh no, I'm sorry, hold on. I got the story wrong. What happened was first Tiger said to me, he said, Dad, he goes, after he saw me react to this note, he said, Dad, he goes, it would be really cool to get a note from you sometime also. You guys are like, this is the leader of Front Row Dads? Holy cow. Totally fallible. Not a perfect person. First one to admit it. And so I heard what he said. I processed that and I thought, you know what, he's right. And he shouldn't have to ask me for those words of acknowledgement, you know, to be a moment maker in my son's life. I should know this. I should be able to put these words on paper and share them with him on a regular basis. Well, that day I took immediate action. I wrote a note and I put it in his lunchbox. And I didn't know that he actually saw me sneak it in there. But walking out the door, this goes back to Thomas, walking out the door, I heard Tiger whisper to Thomas, Thomas, my dad put a note in my lunchbox. And he was so proud of that. And he was so excited about that. I realized the power of our words. We can be moment makers in people's lives when we write fan mail, when we write notes like this. What note do you need to write today? What text message do you need to send? What thank you is long overdue? What letter of love and gratitude needs to be written? You know, at our Front Row Dads event, we were just talking about Front Row Dads, one of the exercises that we did about a year and a half ago was we asked our guys to write a letter to their dad, whether they were living or dead. And one of my buddies, my best friend, John Kane, wrote a letter to his dad at that retreat. His dad suffered a fatal heart attack just weeks later from that event. And my friend John called me up in tears to let me know that he was so grateful that I invited him to write the letter that day, because it was the last letter he had ever written to his dad, and he felt he was able to say all the things he wanted to say. We even had one of our guys there whose father had passed away, and he felt that writing that letter to his father that was in heaven was such a powerful exercise because there were things he still wanted to say to his dad that he hadn't. What notes or letters could you write today? What words will you put on paper that will change your life or somebody else's life? What if we were to live every day like it's our last? There's also the power of the spoken word. Oh, there you go, by the way. There's my family. My wife, Tatiana, my son, Tiger, and my other son, Ocean. And yes, those are their real names. Powerful. When my kids ask me why we picked the names Tiger and Ocean, I'll say because we named you out of a place of power and not out of fear of what other people would think. That's my beautiful family. I think about the power of spoken words. I think about a time when a woman, a total stranger, taught me about the power of spoken words. I was driving down the road. This is in Richmond, Virginia at the time. A beautiful sunny day. Sorry for that, a little poke again. When am I going to learn? Driving down the road, beautiful sunny day. I remember this like it was yesterday, and this is probably 15 years ago. I went to go pay a $3 toll to this woman at the toll booth. This woman who is probably in her, like even her early 80s, leans out the window, and she said, how are you doing today? Like enthusiastically. Kind of caught me off guard because most of my interactions with the toll booth money collectors were not so positive. Most of them didn't even look at me, it was just they collected the money. Even if I was like, hey, how's it going? Sometimes even totally ignored. But this woman, hey, how are you doing today? Now, I was actually in a pretty good mood. So my response to her, I thought was going to be just earth-shatteringly positive. I looked back at her, I said, I'm excellent, thank you. And I said it with that type of enthusiasm. She looked back at me like I had just offended her somehow with my answer. And she leaned out the window slowly, and she kind of put her finger in my face like this, and she said, no. I was like, what did I do? Like, what was so bad about that? So I just look at her, kind of like with this look of, well, what's next? And she looks at me and she says, you are super fantastic! And literally, like with this burst of life and love and like all this joy, and then she just smiles at me. And I smile back at her, and I'm like, thank you so much for that. And she says, have a great day, sweetie, and just sent me on my way. Now, I'm just kind of rattled by this whole thing. I'm just driving, I'm like, that was amazing. Like, never would I have expected that to be what just happened. And what I thought to myself in that moment was, does she do this to everybody? Or just me? Did I draw greatness from this woman? Was I the chosen one? No, I said, she probably does it to everybody. And sure enough, it was actually months later. I'm in my living room, and I'm watching TV. I see a McDonald's commercial appear. And at the end, the golden arches show up. And shooting out of the golden arches is the toll booth lady. And she goes, try it. It's super fantastic. And I stand up in my living room, and I'm like, you did it. You're famous. You changed the world. I'm screaming, and I'm like, oh, it's like finally, I experienced the story of the person who started off small. I was like, what can I do? And by the way, and then I was like, but that's it, right? Isn't that life? You get one person who works at a toll booth and says, I work at a toll booth. What difference can I make? But then you get this woman who's like, I work at a toll booth. What difference can I make? Same scenario. Different question, different intent to the question. What difference can you make? What difference will you choose to make in your life? Take a moment, if you will, and just look back over your life for a moment. You can even close your eyes if you want. This is your day. This is your moment. You can do whatever you want with it. Keep your eyes open, shut your eyes, whatever feels good. But just think back. Let me just give you 30 seconds. Who showed up for you in life? Who asked you a powerful question? Who was there for you in a time of need in your front row? This could have been this morning. It could have been yesterday, last week. It could have been when you were a kid. Just ask yourself the question, who's really stepped up for you in life? And just appreciate that person for a moment. Just feel gratitude, feel love. Think for a moment about how you might recognize them. And perhaps if they're not here anymore, with a prayer or a thought, and honor somebody's life in any way that we want. Perhaps think what needs to be done on a break where you send a message, a quick text, a video, just to tell somebody you love them. Who might have played a role in the most transformative moments of your life? Take a deep breath. Sometimes we don't pause enough, right? Go, 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 go. Today's kind of a cool pause for you. Today's a great day to listen to the amazing speakers that are coming up next. I was reading over their bios and learning about their messages before today, and I'm like so excited about the rest of the speakers. It's going to be a great day. Think about all the opportunities that you have to choose how you show up and what type of energy you bring to this room. Because here's the deal, it's not the speaker's responsibility to make this an awesome day for you. It's actually a community-wide responsibility. If everybody in this room shows up big, not only in this room, but in the hallway with your conversations and your questions and your listening and your engagements, the real power in this room is when relationships are formed, decisions are made, and lives are changed. So my buddy tells me, he says, I think I figured out the meaning of life, John. I think I figured it all out. He said, I think Front Row is doing a good job. Front Row Foundation is doing a good job of actually making it all work. And here's what I think. He goes, my grandfather was sick. And I was in the hospital visiting him every day for weeks on end. And he said there was a woman who was actually working at the reception desk who I just happened to notice was exceptionally positive. She brought so much love and light to this room, and I just saw it every day when I walked in with the people that she was checking in front of me. She knew their names, she knew their stories. She was very engaging. And so one day, after a couple weeks of visiting his grandfather, he said to the woman, he says, I can't help but notice how engaging you are and positive you are and how you know everybody's name and how just a lovely soul that you are. And I just wanted to acknowledge you for that. And I also wanted to ask you, like, why do you think you're that way? And the woman said, well, she goes, I can tell you it's easy. She goes, I just try to, live every day like it's your last. And he's like, oh, he says, totally, I get that. He goes, I try to live my life like could be my last day. And she said, no, I don't think you understood. She says, I live every day like it's your last. How much more present would you be with somebody on a break if you knew that the conversation that you were about to have with them was a conversation that they would have on their last day? How much more present do I get with my son if I think that this might be his last day? I put my phone away, I stop all the distractions, and it changes everything. How do you treat your spouse if you thought those final words that you say could be the last ones? Not for you, but for them. And what about those letters that you get a chance to write to recipients for a Front Row Foundation that are fighting for their lives, and they could be the last letter they ever read? When you put that type of importance on our moments, we recognize how precious life is and how impactful it can be for you to show up big with an open heart and a giving spirit. Guys, I hope you choose to be moment makers. I hope you choose to live life in the front row. I hope you choose to step up to the things that make you come alive. And this is certainly a front row moment for me today. I hope you have lots of front row moments in this experience for Day of Excellence. 10-year celebration, so many great people. Love you guys. Have an awesome day. Thanks, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, guys. That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Jon Vroman. Right? John was sponsored by Black Hills Energy today, and wow, thank you, Black Hills Energy, for helping us bring Jon Vroman. A couple of takeaways that I have: living life today, being present. And wow, if you know it's someone else's last day, putting your phone away, ooh, boy, I got a pang of guilt. Just kind of shudder all the way through me with that one. I need to do a better job. Being a moment maker. I have to tell you, you guys made my day. You made my year. That was a remarkable feeling. And what I want to do in turn is make everyone else feel as good as you all made me feel. It's just remarkable how love and attention from someone else can just make you really feel alive and really excited about doing more goodness. That goodness is really contagious. So I hope you will all go be moment makers. I hope you will all go make a new relationship, find a new friend,